The Boeing 2707 Supersonic Transport, or SST, was the United States' answer to the Concorde. The manufacturer designed it to be larger, fly further, and have greater capacity than its European rival. However, the project was cancelled in 1971 before two prototypes of the plane were completed. Boeing was hoping that the 2707 would carry 292 passengers in two classes. 28 customers would be in first class with 40 inches of legroom, while 264 people would be in economy with 34 inches of legroom. Powered by four General Electric GE4/J5P turbojets, the aircraft could achieve a speed of Mach 2.7 with a range of approximately 6,400 kilometers or 3,500 nautical miles. While Boeing had been working on several small-scale SST studies since 1952, there was a heightened pressure to deliver after the formal announcement of the Concorde in 1962. Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) Director Najib Halabi wrote a letter to President Kennedy stating that if the US did not immediately ramp up its SST effort, the nation would lose 50,000 jobs, $4 billion in income, and $3 billion in capital, as local carriers would turn to foreign manufacturers. Several American outfits, including Boeing, Lockheed, and North American Aviation, submitted their designs to take on the Concorde. On New Year's Day 1967, Boeing found out that its proposal, which went by the name Model 733-390, was the winner of the competition. Following this achievement, Boeing went on to refine the proposal, developing the 2707. 2 years later, there were delivery positions reserved for 122 Boeing SSTs by 26 carriers. There was interest from the likes of Alitalia, Delta Airlines, Iberia, and KLM. Boeing's resident historian Mike Lombardi discussed with the BBC just how busy Boeing was during this period. To put into context just how ambitious this was, when Boeing was working on supersonic transport, the company was also designing what would be the 747 jumbo jet, and the 737 airliner had just entered service. There was the space program to get a man on the moon, which Boeing was heavily involved in, and there were some military projects as well. However, in 1971, the US government ended its financial support for the SST's production, forcing its cancellation. At that moment, there were 115 unfilled orders by 25 operators. Meanwhile, Concorde had 74 orders from 16 companies. Lombardi states it was the global economic crisis that forced the scrapping of the project. The change of circumstances made it inefficient to deploy such a jet. What ended up killing Boeing's design and eventually Concorde itself was the amount of fuel you had to burn. It became prohibitive, Lombardi said, as per the report. There was the recession of 1971 and the cost of oil started to rise, but even if it hadn't ended then, the oil crisis of 1973 would have killed it. It would have ended up being a disastrous project if it had still gone ahead. Ultimately, the atmosphere across the US and the globe had changed by the 1970s, and airlines were changing their business models with the advent of the 747. Making things worse for the 2707 were design issues. To fuel the robust engines and carry the designed load, the plane would be too heavy to hit the skies. So engineers needed a lighter material such as titanium. However, at the time, this was incredibly expensive, and authorities soon stopped any further funding. There was also a lot of environmental opposition to the supersonic jet, which included concerns about ozone depletion and disruptive noise. Concorde obviously went further than the 2707, but only slightly, with only 14 units of the type entering commercial service. What are your thoughts about the Boeing 2707? Would you have been keen to fly on this aircraft? Let us know what you think of the plane in the comments section. Did you know that we publish over 175 stories every single week on simpleflying.com? Be sure to check the link in the description for more great stories just like this. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe before you go.